and Sonic Surge for keeping the rock world alive and loud. Rolling with me behind the scenes, my producer, making it all happen, Disease. All right, let's get into it today. We're joined by Adam from Past Silent. Adam, we appreciate you taking the time to hang with us. Man, welcome to the show.
No, I appreciate the invite, guys. I've been looking forward to it.
Heck yeah. So we'll go ahead and get started right out the gate. Take us back for a second, and what's your story leading up to Past Silent, and when did music really become a serious part of your life?
As far as serious part of my life, probably 13. Got my first guitar. Well, found my first guitar in my grandfather's basement. Uh, it's still hanging.
Oh, we lost him. He'll be right back, guys. He's having some technical difficulties. All right, there he is. All right. A little technical difficulties, so
Yeah,
all right.
probably. Thanks, AT&T. That'll be my first shout out for the day.
So,
All right. Found my first guitar when I was 13. My grandfather started noodling around there. I distinctly remember a kid from school showing me an Everclear song, and it was off to the races from there. And driving my parents nuts, I'm sure, which I've learned now that I have kids, for what was probably months and months and months. Playing by myself, played in church a little bit in high school, went to college, had a couple bands that really didn't do, thought we were going to make big time. Would have been, early 2000s. Rock was pretty big around Lexington, across Kentucky. And then I happened to put a band together of a bunch of guys that were also going in the Army. And that pretty much negated anything happening after college for that. So we all went our separate ways. I played a little country in between, unfortunately, just to help pay the bills in college, even though it hurt my soul. And once I got out of the Army in 2014, was my first chance to really put any kind of time back in anything reliable. So a couple cover bands in and out of there. But this whole Past Silent story, as far as like the past 5 years, probably started right before COVID. I had joined a band called Point of Real, who had actually been around in the early 2000s. Had a couple, the members, the original drummer, TJ Taylor, who's currently in Soil, the original guitar player, Sean Durr, who toured with Tantric for a long time, jumped in with them. We set about finally recording the rest of the album that had been around for years and never got put down. And about the time we finished that here in the studio, actually, COVID hit. So that ended that band's tenure really quickly across that summer. And then kind of what stepped off into this whole thing is during that Point of Real stint, we needed a bass player, went on a search and found Brian Stinnett. Brian Stinnett is my current bass player. This is the fourth band Brian has followed me to from venture to venture since then, and kind of stuck with me. I'm not really sure why. He continues to put up with my crap, but he does. We left Point of Real and decided we were going to do a cover band, but we wanted to do whatever we wanted to do. Didn't want to play necessarily pop songs and hits or whatever that everyone wanted. So we put together a 90s and 2000s hard rock band doing all of the stuff that we fell in love with in the late 90s, Candlebox to Godsmack to you name it. If it was a one-hit wonder or a popular hard rock song, that's what we did. And had to find a singer that could do that, which was a little bit of a struggle, especially doing it 4 hours. As a cover band, a bar band around here, they either want you there for 2 hours or 4 hours and you're sharing the night, but they want a lot of music out of you. And went to a karaoke night, actually, back near Fort Campbell over in Clarksville. and to check out this kid I had seen on Facebook. And I say kid because I think Jacob honestly was like 23 at the time, maybe. Was trying to sell cars. He was wearing slacks and a flannel shirt and his glasses, and got up there and busted out "Man in the Box" was the first song that he jumped on stage to sing karaoke. And I think by the time he was done, I don't even think I stayed for the second song. I could be wrong, but I knew at that point. So I hit him up and we drug him over, and we found a drummer, Brad Bays, who's around the Richmond area. Has played with a couple bands too. Runs sound for everybody now. And we spent a good 2 years doing the Deadline thing, 4 hours a night, damn near every weekend, if not every other weekend. Having a lot of fun, 60 something songs in the repertoire, put together a hell of a light show, which has kind of been our staple, and did that for 2 years solid, and really just kind of got, I guess, burnt out on it at that point, playing the same songs week after week after week in the same 5 or 6 bars for the same $400 to $700, depending on how good of a night it was. Kind of just got torched. And I actually was the one that made the decision to end that. Well, I decided I was going to step away, and I told the guys that they could continue without me if they wanted to. And they kind of didn't really have any interest in doing that at the time. So that would have led us up to 2 years ago, and stop me at any point if I'm, rambling through the whole history.
No, you can go ahead.
That led us up to 2 years ago. I had decided to step away from the cover band thing. I honestly didn't think I was going to do music at all. I was just kind of taking a break and working and the kids. And I just literally about the same month I told the guys that I was quitting. It was like October, November. I saw an ad posted needing a guitar player for a band called Tennessee Holy Water. They had been around for a little while. They had done some things, played some shows. They were closer to me. I live in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So they were saying they were out of Nashville, kind of was the central meeting place. And I couldn't help myself. I really, really dug the music. It sounded a lot like something I would write. So I thought maybe, I could jump into that, kind of step back. And Deadline, and this is my own fault. This is the control freak in me. I end up programming all the lights, programming the shows, doing all the booking. I handle the majority of the legwork, and every band that I get into, and it's my own fault. Every time I do it, I say I'm not going to. I got into Tennessee Holy Water and I said I wasn't going to, and then, they didn't really have lights, and I knew how to do lights, and they didn't really have this. So I end up picking up a lot of the stuff I always say that I'm not going to. And I'm blessed enough to have a decent career, so I have a little bit of play money to do some of that stuff with. When I'm not playing music. So jumped into Tennessee Holy Water. They also needed a bass player. So I knew the guy to call. I called Brian again and drug him over to a third band, asked him if he was in. We jumped right in. Luckily, they had a pretty decent repertoire of songs. They had probably 8 or 10 songs, I think, maybe at the time. They had a decent set list. Some shows on the horizon that the singer Jesse had already kind of lined up. They had a drummer at the time, didn't really fit with where we were going and the kind of program shows and stuff like that we were trying to do. So we ended up looking for a new drummer, put an ad out, and came across a guy in Louisville. His name's Jared, and he's been with me ever since. Jared Andrews, probably one of the, if not the best technical drummer I've ever played with. I tell him all the time, he's way too good for our band. He's got a jazz degree. He teaches drum line. Like, it is his life. And let's be honest, nothing in Pat Silent is that drummer technical or jazzy. So I give him crap all the time that we're playing stuff that's way too easy for him, but he loves it. And that was kind of our basis for that year. We did a lot of cool stuff. Went out to Gettysburg for Battle of the Bands. Played around Richmond, and of course, got on with some of the local guys. Mr. Lugosi at the time was gracious enough to stick us on a lineup, even though they didn't know who we were. Did that for a better part of a year, and kind of started to have differing views on how to go forward with the singer. Singer Jesse was kind of in a weird spot in his life. He was trying to figure out as well, wife and kids and everything else. We kind of had different views on practice and preparedness and kind of where we were going to go. We weren't real thrilled, and we tried to milk that, try to figure out what was best for everyone, how to help, kind of keep him in line with kind of what we were wanting to do and where we wanted to go. But it ultimately just differing opinions. We ended up sitting down and cutting ties with him at the end of, I guess that would have been 2024. I kind of made an offer to take Tennessee Holy Water and kind of buy it and take it over to be my baby. But, rightfully so, Jesse started the band. He didn't want to let go of it. So we kind of came to an amicable agreement with social media and where the things have gone and song ownership and stuff like that. And we broke amicably. He still got Tennessee Holy Water up and running. I know he was looking for some band members, still had some shows on the books, still has the music up and streaming. I still have a serious place in my heart for a lot of those songs. We still cover some of them live occasionally, just the ones that we really enjoy. But that put us back at the end of 2024 with kind of the three of us and a couple songs that were in the tank that we hadn't recorded and no singer. So here we are again searching for a band member, and typical Adam, I was like, well, we know a guy who had just pulled it off for us for a year or two. And unfortunately, Jacob had moved to Alabama in that time frame, but he was game. So that kind of morphed into our current situation. We are spread out. I'm in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Jacob's in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. My drummer is in Louisville, Kentucky, and my bass player is in Lexington, Kentucky. So no matter where we go, somebody's traveling, whether that's flying or driving or just rehearsals. But everyone's kind of been on board with this project and the music to make it happen. So we're a weird band. We don't rehearse every week like some of these other bands do. I will admittedly, I have high expectations of the people that I work with, especially when we were doing cover music. I came from playing in church where you didn't have rehearsals. You were just expected to know the music you were expected to know and given. And Brian, luckily, kind of fell into that with me with Deadline, and so did Jacob. And we really got used to, especially with covers, hey guys, we're going to play these two songs. Show up ready to play them. There's no excuses. It's already been recorded. You've been listening to it for 20 years. Learn the song. You shouldn't need 10 practices to show up and do it. So I will admit it's probably not a great look for us. Maybe it is. I guess it depends if you see us live or not. Not this current release, but the one prior to Glass House. First time we ever jammed it together outside of the studio was live, opening for Saving Abel. So we trust each other. We're going to do this Only Human. The first time we'll do that live will be in May when we play with Gravel Switch, and we're just going to do it. And no excuses. You should know it. We've recorded it. It's our song. So show up and play the damn song the way it was recorded. So that's kind of how we've hit this running. We all have lives. Hell, three of us are over 40. So we don't have multiple nights a week to drive and get together and rehearse. We write songs together. We pass stuff back and forth. It's kind of the modern way the band exists right now because of jobs and money and location. So that took us to the kickoff. And probably the one thing that really paid off for us was that we had made a lot of connections. I lived in Richmond, Kentucky for a long time. So I know a lot of the musicians around there and a lot of the bands. Brian as well, living in Lexington, and it's really helped. And we were talking offline about other bands and shouting bands out. And if there's anything I could do in any of these podcasts, and I see other guys do it, Jacob or Tyler from Third and Theory and Seth, if we can do anything is shout out the other Kentucky bands that really have stepped up, at least from what I've seen. You and I were talking offline about Gravel Switch, Third and Theory, August and Anger, Mr. Lugosi. All those dudes have, at some point or another in the past 5 years, have thrown someone else a gig or stepped in for someone. We had to cancel a gig last year due to a medical emergency. Those dudes stepped right in and took over for us. So that is not something I've seen in a lot of other cities. Some tends to be kind of cutthroat and backstabby in a lot of other places that I've lived. And at least in this area, whether it's due to not as many bands or lack of venues. Everyone's been really super supportive with whatever you got going on. So I'll shout those guys out, all of them, as many times as I can.
Heck yeah. And, you know, after the show, you know, we'll talk a little more, but that's awesome how you came together. I've seen you guys sharing the stage. You mentioned Gravel Switch, you know, Saving Abel, Vincent Langdon, Shallow Side, Third in Theory, August, and Anger. Playing with these bands like that, being in those environments, feeling that energy, I gotta imagine that starts to influence how you guys write and approach your music. Has it changed the way you write or structure your songs?
I think if anything, it's probably we're kind of in the spot right now where we didn't put out an album per se. We put out, you know, I think this next one will be the 6th song. We kind of wanted to just do singles. Not that people don't buy albums, but as far as the money and our situation goes, you know, if we disappeared for a year to write an album's worth of material and then tried to come back and expect people to have any idea who we were, we just didn't think it would be a thing. And honestly, with the Tennessee Holy Water to a Past Silent transition, we were really trying to keep the same people that we had started connecting with and meeting with. You know, the shows thing is kind of cool. I have a really, really good relationship with most venues, but especially with Champions in Richmond, Kentucky. You know, I started playing there back in 2003, and when I wasn't even old enough to get in. And they've always been huge music supporters, and they've always had a great rock and roll scene. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about that little area. You know, it'd be easy to be nothing but country, but they've always been super supportive through the different managers, and now Gary and Ashley, the two that currently run it. And you know, we did a lot of the same lineups around the same venues, and we kind of threw an idea out last August. There's a drummer named Braden Pike who drums for a band called Lines of Loyalty. He used to be in Taylor Road. They were one of the popular bands around Lexington and Richmond. And I kind of reached out to him last year about doing a kind of a hometown show, because Lines of Loyalty, they're on Octane. They're touring a little bit, you know, trying up and coming, way bigger than we are. And reached out to Champions about putting this kind of like a headliner show together. And it went great. I mean, it packed the place out. And from there, we're like, you know, what if we did this every couple months? You know, it's not Rupp, it's not Manchester Music Hall, it's none of these massive venues, but it's the only place around there to go see those kind of bands. So we did the Lines of Loyalty thing. I put a call in, a little favor, some really good friends of mine with Saving Abel, and managed to book them in January. They sold the place out, and it's just been kind of going since then. We had Shallow Side in March. There are a lot more mid-level bands than I think people understand or even give credit to that are touring their asses off. I mean, you know, these Shallow Sides and Lines of Loyalty, these bands are playing 20 shows a month nonstop because they have one song on the radio and they're supporting the hell out of it, and they're willing to play. I don't want to say they're willing to play anywhere, but anywhere you can put together 100 legit rock and roll fans that are there to have a good time is better than 40 in some massive venue. And it's worked out phenomenal.
Absolutely, man.
We've got another one in August we're not allowed to talk about yet. Headline show I'm hoping to be able to announce in the next month. That is a very, very well-known band. And we're going to try to do this every couple months. The Saving Abel guys have agreed to come back every year, so we'll hopefully do that again in January. And Champions has just been phenomenal about supporting us and every other, you know, legit event that they want to put on. And it gives people a chance to see something different. You know, we love all the bands in Kentucky that we get to play with, but we also, you know, sometimes it's like, well, I played with you last month and we played with the other band the month before, and how are we going to put a lineup together to keep people coming out? So that's kind of how those things have come on. And then just meeting those guys. You asked about influence in writing. I mean, really, at the end of the day, you start meeting some of these bands that are at least doing it a level above us, right? They're at least doing it a step above us. They're touring constantly. They're figuring out a way to pay the bills. And as much as I hate social media, they're figuring out a way to do the social media thing and keeping the interest going. So I don't know how much honestly shaping the writing itself as much as shaping the way we handle the band. Like, what are we doing to advance the band? Where is our focus at? You know, making sure as much as you hate it, you're posting reels and you're engaging with people, because that's where it is. The days of earning your following by playing a show every night have kind of turned into earning your following by posting a reel every day. So that's unfortunately kind of where we are.
Hell yeah. So moving on to musical influences, who would you say are some of your biggest musical influences that help, shape the sound of Past Silent? You always have that
Oh, I'm
band
gonna get
that you
correct.
listen to, and you're like, I want to, like, growing up, you're like, man, I want to play like that, or.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I'm probably half of these I'll probably get absolutely destroyed for, but I'm unabashedly. So for me, it started. I'm a '80s hair band guy. That's how I was raised. That's all my father listened to. Um, Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora is the entire reason I ever picked up a guitar. So always been my number one. Unashamedly, Nickelback is also in my top 5. Hate or no hate, they have absolutely destroyed it. And if you've never seen them live in concert, you're missing out. Vying for my number one at all times is Sevendust. I have been diehard Sevendust since I found out about them when I was like a freshman in high school, sophomore in high school. Probably the most underrated band that's in the hard rock world ever. I played a lot of country, so there's a little bit of that. But for me, outside of the hair bands, I guess my rock and roll education after that really was just because of my age. I think I was, really lucky come 2000, Disturbed, Godsmack, Shinedown, Hoobastank, Linkin Park, all of those. That 2000 to 2005 was just insane with the amount of amazing hard rock music that came out. And, you learn how to tune drop D as a guitar player, and you never look back, and you start writing all those. Blackstone Cherry around here, still massive. Which I guess I can shout out. We're doing a show with them actually in July. We're going back to Gettysburg and Blackstone Cherry, so that's gonna be amazing.
That's
pretty
awesome.
kick ass. We did it with Saving Abel last year, and From Ashes to New and Sleep Theory. We did that show last year, and we get to go back and do it again this year. So some of it's nostalgia for me, right? Like, the Saving Abel crew have become, especially Jared and his wife Nikki and their kids, have become family to me and my children. And if you had told me that 20 years ago, I probably would have geeked out. That was I jammed every one of those albums growing up, and now Jared sends me ridiculous memes on text messages, and I still struggle not to fanboy sometimes and feel retarded when I see him and I freak out because Jared Weeks is calling me and he's like, what's wrong with you? But I can't help it. That's what I grew up with and still influences my stuff to this day. And I think a lot of that probably comes through in the guitar playing, especially my solos. I had a guy message me after our last song came out and literally broke down my solo. Every 4 bars was like, oh, this sounds like this sounds like Richie Sambora, and this sounds like this person. I was like, well, that's real funny because that's basically everything I learned growing up. So it comes through.
Hell yeah. So is there an artist or a band that you would love to collaborate with? Like one of your, say, top 3. That way you show love.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna narrow me down to one. Top 3 that I would love to collaborate with. Well, so I got to check one of those off the books. Jared from Saving Abel helped us rewrite some of the last song. He really helped us out on those lyrics. We were kind of in a stuck place, so that was, mini dream come true. I'm a little bit of a nerd too, so I would also probably say producers. There's a guy named Chris Dawson who's doing a massive amount of radio work right now. He's doing Lines of Loyalty's current stuff. He's done all these bands from Saul and all these other. So I would collaborating with him would probably be absolutely phenomenal. As far as artist wise, I know the guys from Seven Dust do some collabs with other bands, so that would probably be something. If anything, I think it would push us, to kind of step out our comfort zone writing wise and the way we put things together. And the other guys are going to shoot me too, because we all have very broad musical interests. So they probably have somebody completely off the wall that they'd want to sit down and collab with. But I guess that's two, 3, something like that.
Yeah, that's some good choices. So I want to move into your singles and Glass House. And I'm going to say, still living in a glass house, wasting all of the time I have left trapped in regret. Can the time ever turn back now, or am I left just to wait it out? I'm forever here trying to just escape this state of regret. These lyrics, they hit, and it's just seems like it's not just about being exposed, it's about being trapped in your own regret, stuck replaying things, and you can't change, and trying to find a way out of the headspace. Could you give us a little more on Glass House?
Yeah, so I'd say we're lucky, although I guess it depends how you look at it. The people that make up Past Silent, our band, three of us are over 40. Jacob's pretty young. 3 of us are veterans. Me and Jacob were both in the Army. Brian was in the Navy. And my drummer, Jared, not to put him on blast, but he wouldn't mind. Jared's in recovery. He's been sober for a long time now, but he dealt with some serious shit. And I think, sometimes it takes seeing a lot of different things in life that other people don't, whether it's the PTSD stuff, stuff when you're deployed, Jared's stuff. I personally don't have any, drug experiences that I would call overly negative that I have to tap from, but he does. We've just amassed 4 different walks of life that have seen some very, various extremes. And I think, personally, I spent 10 years in the Army, and I am a helicopter pilot. That's what I did in the Army. That's what I do now when I get out. But it's very, I always say it's one very small facet of my day-to-day life and who I actually am. I think sometimes I look at it just, it's my job. It's not necessarily who I identify as. No different than any of the other guys identify with the one thing that you see them going through, or the one thing that you see on social media. And it's really easy to get on these reels every day and portray how excited you are for the next show and how happy and how great things are going. And even at the shallow level, it's really hard to show how much money you're dumping into all this stuff, or how much work is being done in the background, or the fact that maybe you only got 100 views on a song that you were so pumped to release and thought everyone was going to connect with, and it just goes nowhere. And I fight it as much as anyone else. I was telling my girlfriend last night that I've had moments recently where I'm like, why am I still doing this? I'm 42 years old. I'm dumping a shit ton of money into this music. Do I really have an expectation that it's going to blow up tomorrow and I'll start paying all my bills playing music? I mean, I also play the Powerball. So, 50-50, which one's going to pan out for my retirement before the other one does. But we're trying to write songs that are a little bit more than just, we put out Only Human last month, and it's a little more just kind of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Not that there's nothing to it, but it's just a little bit more straightforward of, wanting to be a hooligan and do hooligan things, but also trying to live a better life. And sometimes we want some of these to just be a little bit more exposed, and, something that people can connect with I think the hard part, right, is writing something somebody connect with without being so specific that you lose some of those people because they've never experienced that specific thing or that specific trauma or that experience. So it's how do you communicate something you've gone through or you're going through, but leave it wide open enough that anyone that's had 10% or 100% of that same battle, same feeling can still listen to it, feel it, sing along with it, feel like it's still connected with them, not necessarily something that they don't understand.
Absolutely. And most people, when they listen to a song, you know, that you write or your band members write, or, you know, you're writing about you, yourself, them, and then, when someone's listening to that song, they interpret it in their own way most of the time to where,
Yeah.
whatever they lost, or, that's what, I find. And they usually, follow along after that. Um, the other one that comes to mind
And
is
that goes
eulogy.
both ways too, positive and negative.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, the other one is eulogy. That opening line. You know, I'll tread through the deepest oceans before I give up another drop of my blood. You know, it it just felt like the breaking point, like you've been pushed to the edge and now you're done giving any more of yourself away, as you know coming from a real place or specific experience. You think also, like, the other lyrics is, you think I'm giving up what I've got, but I've just begun to show what I'm made of. I'm making this my eulogy to break down what's in front of me. I swear I'll never waste another day. These words, I think y'all done an awesome job in writing the music, because it's just not, to me, I can't really say because I was in the military as well, but most people that I've let listen to your music, and this is usually how, when I come across new music that I've never heard, I share. Like, I love sharing music. Oh man, everybody down the road at work, I will let them listen to this, and then I'll tell you, when they listen to it, it's like, man, I've never heard them before. And you know what? They add the your band to their playlist. So, it just, I think it's amazing, when you actually write from experience, and it shows, how other people take it, you know, they make it their own.
And I appreciate, obviously, we appreciate the hell out of you sharing it with anybody. Probably the hardest thing is getting it in front of new people, whether it's finding new playlists or figuring out how to get it heard anywhere. You know, it's funny, those, especially the first two, lessons and eulogy, and honestly the band name, uh, I'll tactfully, not to air dirty laundry. So those really did come from a frustration point. We had reached a point with Tennessee Holy Water, me especially. I was invested substantially, financially and emotionally and time wise, and we were frustrated. It's water under the bridge now. Like, we wish Jesse the best. I would love nothing more than watch Tennessee Holy Water shoot to the moon as well. Because hell, I still own some of the music. It's still my music. I'm still attached to it. It's still my baby in a lot of ways. So it would never do me any good to down that band, and I'll put them on any bill that they want with us any day of the week. But there was admittedly and obviously some frustration at the end of that period with feeling like we were kind of beating our heads against the wall, and we had this opportunity, or at least we perceived that we had this opportunity with this thing that we had going on. And that's kind of where the band name came from. I don't remember if it was Jared or me. It was one of the two of us in the car at some point. And it was an offhand comment about, basically not holding our tongue anymore. Like, we've tried and we've tried and we're done. We're past the point of being quiet, or past the point of being silent, or however those words came out, is really where the band came from, and that angst, that frustration, that name. And then that just bled right into, Lessons, which was really less oriented towards that anger as much as oriented towards, we were brand new. We had just switched band names and switched our singer, starting a new band off the ground, hoping to keep the same people that had been loyal to us for the past year, and really just trying to come out of the gate with like, look, we're not screwing around. Hell is coming your way is the very first line of the chorus. Just trying to put it out there that like we meant it. The video and the song we put out at the same time. Eulogy probably had a little bit more tongue-in-cheek anger in it, from the past. But to be fair, it wasn't just that band. I mean, we had run into the same issue with Point of Real and COVID shutting things down, and we did a show opening for Cold in Lexington, and then we had to do a live stream, and then that was it. COVID shut everything down. So it was like, that wasn't anybody's fault other than you're just getting, kicked in the teeth about it. And then the cover band thing was what it was, and just getting sick of it and really just getting frustrated and figuring out how do we do this in a way that we actually enjoy the music as opposed to the rest of it. Because we don't enjoy the social media. I'll be the first one to admit, I don't want to post 3 times a day. I don't want to live on Facebook. We're old. 3 of us are old. Jacob's not old. He's the baby. But, we don't want to live on that stuff. I don't want to constantly have to be doing reels. I don't want to have to worry about how many views I had, but that's kind of where it's at. So how can we write and play music and play shows that make it enjoyable enough to deal with, the rest, the mundane day to day, So there's definitely a lot of angst that's been, wrapped into the beginning of this band. I think we're over it a little bit. I think we're moving, with Only Human and maybe some of the songs going forward. Maybe it'll be a little bit less anger, and we'll have to explore some other situations and emotions.
Heck yeah.
Financial ruin. That'll be the next one, probably.
So y'all done a cover, and Adam, you
Yep.
guys released it, Cover Me Up. It's by Jason Isbell, and it was a reflection of sobriety and redemption. What made you choose that song, and what did it mean for you to put your own spin on it?
I will admit that I didn't even know it was Jason Isbell first. I had heard Morgan Wallen kind of blew that song back up, a year or 2 ago. Jason Isbell just wasn't really in my wheelhouse as far as what I grew up on, what I cut my teeth on. We had done Pretty Little Poison the year before with Tennessee Holy Water. We had put out that cover, Warren Ziders cover. And our producer he pushes for some covers all the time. It is the easy way to connect with people, I think, and you're always hoping possibly for that one that just, there's been a lot of bands in the past 10 years that have had their career started by a killer cover. And if anything, just to get people to even know who the hell your name is, right? I mean, there are so many bands out there that have put out so many albums worth of phenomenal material that just never have one catch. So our producer was always egging us to put out another killer cover and try to catch something. It's always a catch-22 for me. Are you really connecting with it? Do you really want to do it? We have songs we want to write and get put out. I think honestly, for Cover Me Up, is I had heard the song, and I don't think I'm terrible. I'm not a lyric guy, right? So I'm a guitar player. Music grabs me, riffs grab me. It takes me a lot of listens before I'll honestly even tell you what half the lyrics are. That's not where my brain's wired a lot of times. For me, I heard the song. I really didn't put a whole lot into the lyrics. Sounded maybe like a love song, whatever. At the time, I thought maybe he was in a fight with her, whatever. I really hadn't paid a whole lot of attention to it. What I heard at the time was like, look, this could be, I know what the song is. It's this slow acoustic, whatever, but I'm a sucker of the 80s, right? And I'm like, this could be a huge chorus. Like, this chorus could be a massive sing-along ballady type chorus, and that's what caught me the first time. And I always run all my cover ideas by my daughter. She's 13. She knows nothing about half of these songs that I bring up, but she's always like, yeah, I hear exactly what you're talking about. It could be huge. She didn't know the song from anything. So it's kind of funny digging into the song later how much it actually did relate to most of us in the band, and whether it was a deployment struggle, PTSD struggle, drugs and alcohol struggle, any of those things, we all had some chunk of that song we actually could connect with when we went back to it. And I think those two things together is kind of what made the decision, like, yeah, we definitely should do this song. It's kind of funny looking at it now because it doesn't really seem to fit with the other 5 songs that we put out last year. But it gives us a chance live to let Jacob do his thing on his own, get out there and sing. It gives us a chance, we're a newer band. So when we play somewhere like Gettysburg, where I think there were 10,000 people by the end of the night, not for us, obviously they were there for Sleep Theory and From Ashes to New, but hey, we had a hell of a crowd. They don't know our songs, right? They don't know our lyrics. We try to play a couple fun, well-known cover songs, but that song for us is a way, and I always make a comment about it live. Like, guys, most of you probably don't know this song, but I guarantee the woman you brought with you knows every word to this song. So, you should probably learn it because they're going to be singing it too. And we got really lucky last year. Saving Abel was playing Gettysburg with us. And I didn't tell anybody. I surprised the shit out of Jacob, but Jared jumped up and sang the second verse and chorus with us. Shared the stage with him, so I was kind of tickled. I got to it made my night, but I got to kind of make Jacob's night as well. So we haven't taken it out. It's still in the set list to this day. Whether it fits the rest of the stuff we do or not, it's just kind of one of those things that gives us a chance to slow down and just connect at least for one song with some people that are there that maybe don't have any idea who the hell we are or what our lyrics are or anything else. So probably another one you could take 10 different ways depending on how you connect with it or what experience you've been through lyric wise.
Of course. Just to backtrack a little bit, Adam, we had a question from an audience member. What was the worst helicopter you flew, and which was the best and most fun?
The worst. Well, I've actually only flown, technically I've only flown 2. So I've, the Army kind of sticks you in what they stick you in, and that's kind of where you stay for most of your career unless you try to, go out and dabble a little bit. So I've only flown Bell helicopters. So I don't have, my favorite is still what I flew in the Army, the Kiowa. It was a reconnaissance helicopter. Nothing fancy about it. It was heavy. It was old. It was not the most advanced, but we always got to work with ground guys every day. So it was probably the most rewarding. Like when guys are in trouble, when guys are getting shot at, when guys need something, I wasn't having to haul around people or worry about generals or any of those things. My job was literally fly around until somebody needed you. And even if you didn't get to shoot for them that day or you really weren't doing anything, just hearing the change in somebody's voice. And I can't imagine. I've never been a guy on the ground, right? Never been a grunt, never been shot at on the ground, so I don't have that connection. And I honestly had no desire to, but I got the utmost respect for dudes that were walking around in Afghanistan and hearing the change in their voice, thinking, just knowing there was a helicopter up there flying around was awesome. So my favorite would probably be the Kiowa. Then again, it was also a Bell. So worst helicopter, I really don't have a whole lot of experience. I know what I won't do, and that is I will not go get in a tour helicopter at one of these little beach tour places or whatever. And that's nothing against the pilots.
Or a shit hook, huh?
They're just they're cheap helicopters, and they are guys that are working for tips, and neither one of those things are real conducive to what I want to go fly in at this point in my life. So more power to them.
Heck yeah. So, it could have been worse. You could have been piloting the, Chinook, the shit hook, we call it, rattle your teeth out. Mm-hmm. But moving on, wanted to, talk a little about lessons. What's the story behind that song, and what's the main message you wanted people to take away when they hear this song?
Um, I wish I could say that song was aimed at connecting as much as the truth was. It was our outlet. It was our outlet with the band we had come from, the band we were trying to be, and the goal of coming out of the block looking like looking like we were serious. We knew what we were doing, we knew what we wanted, we knew what we were trying to build. So it was really, honestly, I mean, I think the lyrics for that song are a little less, I don't want to say less deep, but they're a little less introspective, and a little bit more like, look, this is what we're doing, this is who we are, this is what we wanted to do, this is what we're putting out, and we're not ashamed of it. So if you don't like it, cool. If you do like it, hop on board, because that was the goal. We're going to run through this year putting out the music we want to put out, sounding the way that we want to sound, and trying to take that into our live shows. Anybody that's seen us, we have a pretty, for the level that we are at as a band, we have a pretty elaborate light show. And that's our goal. Our goal for every show that we play is we want you to come to a concert. We don't want you to come out to a random music night at a bar, or to come here, whatever. Like, our goal is, if you're coming to see Past Silent, we're trying to put a concert on for you from start to finish, whether it's the way we dress, the way we perform, the lights, the sound. We want it to be a show. So we kind of try to treat it that way. And that was kind of where that music was going for us too. Like, look, this isn't us figuring out what kind of music we want to be or how we're going to put the band together. It was, we are unapologetically who we are, and this is a song that we're putting out, and hell is coming your way, right? So either don't come and don't listen to it, or hop on the train with us and let's do this.
Hell yeah. Listening to Lessons, you could really hear that growth and reflection coming through. It feels like you guys are learning from everything you've been through and putting it into music. And as you move forward from that, it feels the sound and message keeps evolving with each release, which brings us to your latest single this year, Only Human. What does Only Human represent for you, and how does it build off of what you guys have already expressed in your past songs?
I think Only Human, it kind of came out of this idea I was tossing around, and we never did actually shoot a full music video for it. But like I said, I grew up on 80s hair band music, and I think, if not that music was less serious, but I feel like the topics were a lot less serious back then, and music was all about, it was the party, right? It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was, the show was a little bit of it. The party afterwards was the focus of it. And I think it's kind of cool. I'm 42, Jared's 43. I don't know how old Brian is. I won't throw him under the bus. He's older than us. And Jacob has always kind of been our baby since we started this thing. So we kind of get to see Jacob go through some things. Now, Jacob's got, I don't know, 17 kids or something like that, and an amazing wife, and they're building a house together. But, we get to see him kind of live some of the things that we've probably already dealt with, whether it's, relationship or health or all these other things. And it's like, it's hard to let go of some of that stuff, wanting to drink after shows, wanting to hang out, wanting to party, not wanting to feel like crap the next morning. And how do you balance those two, right? Like, I'm only human. Like, we're doing what we can to be better people, whether it's, into different marriages or into better relationships, whether it's stupid stuff like going to the gym or diet, or whether it's drinking and partying and do whatever. And we do pretty well most of the time. And then, every once a year, at least one of us falls off the wagon and does something ignorant, whether, you know, I get too drunk on one show and I can't pull a solo out because I just didn't realize that one fireball shot was too much or whatever it is. We are only human, you know, so it's like, it's, there's got to be some grace there. I think and maybe it's me that's having the biggest learning curve with that, because I am admittedly the slave driver in this band. You know, Jared's older than me, but he calls me dad. That's his running joke for this band is Adam's dad. And I'm the one that's booking the shows and doing the social media and the whole 9 yards. And it's more of a control thing more than anything else. And learning to have a little bit of grace with everybody. We're 4 very different people in a band together from 4 very different walks of life, no matter how much we have in common. And, you know, realizing that not everybody is Adam and doesn't always look at it the same way Adam does. So that's probably the biggest underlying thing. a little bit of grace everyone deserves.
I'll tell you what, from, you know, listening to you guys' music, I mean, hell, y'all are doing a great job so far, and I look forward to hearing what you have planned in the future. But what was the responses when you first got on stage and played Only Human for the first time from, you know, people in the crowd?
We have not played Only Human live yet. So Only Human came out the end of February, I think, or the very beginning of March. And we had a show with Shallow Side there that next week. So we opted to keep it out of the set list. And our show in May, we're playing May 9th with Gravel Switch, Third and Theory, and a new band called Fuel the Hollow out of Central Kentucky. And that'll be the first time we plug that one in the set list and go at it. So I'm actually in the middle of programming lights for it right now and relearning the solo. That's probably the hardest part for me. You know, we recorded that song months ago. You know, I cut the solo for that song in January. And then you kind of put those things, you know, they go to the producer, they go to get mixed and the whole 9 yards, and you're building social media around it. And by the time the song comes out, I haven't played the solo in 2 months. And I'm like, oh, holy crap. How was I expecting to pull that off live? So that's where my head's been, is getting my fingers back in to remember what I wrote, so I don't make an ass out of myself. But Only Human, that'll be the first one. The first time we do that will be next month live. So we've already had a couple requests for it. So we'll see how it goes. I can always blame Jacob. He's got to pull the vocals off. So, you know, I can always fudge the guitar. We can fudge the drums or whatever. The real pressure is on Jacob. He's got to get up there and sing it. So, no pressure, Jacob. I know he's watching.
Definitely going to have to keep in touch with you so I can find out how it went, man. I believe it's going to be awesome, though. So
I hope so. You know, it's afforded us, as more and more songs we've released, then we can kind of pull out some of the fillers, pull out some of the cover songs. Not that we don't love them, but the show becomes a little bit more us every time we put out a new song and we add another one of our songs into the set list. And, you know, we've had to change the flow of the set as it's gone on the past year, and we've got more of our own material. So that's probably been the most fun, is just making it flow the way we want it to flow and tell the story the way we want to live.
So what's next for Past Silent when it comes to new music? Are you guys working on anything right now?
Yeah, I've got one. I just wrapped up all the guitars on. We've got a tentative plan to cut the drums down in Nashville. So Jared's been working on those. He just sent me a scratch file of those last week, actually. It's actually technically a cover. Technically, but it's not necessarily a cover that everyone knows, so it's a cover of another band, so that'll be fun. We'll hopefully put that out. We're in April now, so I'd like to put that out before Gettysburg, if at all possible. We'll see if that works out. Gettysburg's in July. And then that will kind of wrap up the way we're looking at it. This next song will kind of wrap up this first iteration. Whether you want to call it an EP, which we may do, maybe throw all of them together on an EP and release it all as one if people have any desire for it. And then Jacob came to me about a month ago with something that it was really funny. You know, we've been together as some iteration as a band for the past few years, and Jacob really came to me pretty sheepishly, like, "Hey, I want to send you something. I know it might suck. You know, it's okay if you don't want to use it, but I've been working on it, blah blah." And it absolutely blew me away. I was more like, "Where the hell has this been for the past year or two? You know, like, what have you been sitting on this for?" So he kind of gave me something he had put together, and I think it's going to be kind of not necessarily a completely different sound, a little shift in direction, which I'm okay with because it's hard for me sometimes as a guitarist to get away from the same things, writing the same things, playing the same things. You kind of need that. Sometimes you need a little bit of whether it's outside influence or a producer that's pushing a direction, or in this case, Jacob finally throwing something down that he's been working on that will still sound like Past Silent, but will have a kind of a new twist on it that I'm pumped for. So I would love to say that's coming out super soon, but the way things go, it could be 3 months, it could be 4 months. We'll see. So that's kind of what's on the horizon musically. And then show wise, in May, we're with Gravel Switch. Like I said, that'll be the Fox Den in Louisville. It's our first venture to Louisville as Past Silent. We're going back to Gettysburg for Gettysburg Bike Week. Huge lineup there this year. It'll be on Saturday. It's us, Molly Hatchet, and Blackstone Cherry. So I'm getting like multiple decades of my musical passion all in one night. Those guys will be a blast. I think Friday's got even a stacked lineup too. It's like Funeral Portrait, Memphis May Fire, Major Moment, bunch of bands on Friday. So we're going up there for the whole weekend, hang out. We're doing an acoustic set Saturday morning at like noon, and then our set will be Saturday evening. August, sorry, that's July. August 1st, we have the headliner that I said I can't announce yet. The event is on Facebook. It just says to be determined. I do have them nailed down. Everyone knows who they are. Everyone around Richmond is uber familiar with the band and people. I just am not allowed to announce it yet. So hopefully have that out in the next month or so. Tickets will go on sale. And then September, I don't know. I know you guys have interviewed several of the bands that we go around and play with, but I don't know if you're familiar with Rock Rebellion, and I'll shout those guys out every month because they are some of the most supportive people I have ran into in my music career and around Richmond. But they've got a 3-day rock festival. Well, technically, I guess, yeah, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, over Labor Day weekend down in Livingston, Kentucky. And, you can sleep in your car, you can sleep in a tent, you can rent an RV, whatever it is, but it's 20 plus bands, stupid cheap to get into for the weekend, and you can see every Kentucky band that you want to see, whether it's Gravel Switch, Third and Theory, August and Anger, all of them. So just an absolute throwdown. We did it last year and had an absolute ball. So we'll be back there again. I think we play Saturday night this year. We'll be back there in September. So past that, just looking at, maybe a couple headlining shows. Not sure what the rest of the year looks like. Wintertime gets tricky depending on what the weather is and where we're going, but trying to balance the show versus music thing. How much is enough music to keep people interested and not so much that they just write it off as another song, and how many shows are enough to keep people coming out, but not every weekend where they're bouncing around. So, and also, I mean, let's be honest, work-life balance, right? I would love to play every weekend if we could, but we've all got kids, we've all got families, we've all got jobs. So trying to balance those two until one of us hits the Powerball, I guess.
I know that feeling, man. So when you do get up with the Gravel Switch, we had those guys on here, by the way, a little while back, and you just tell Seth I said hello. But
I'll text him as soon as we're done here. There aren't very many days go by me and him don't text each other shit about something.
He'll probably message me after. But if everything goes exactly how you want it, where do you see Past Silent by this time next year?
Man, that is a question that I have tried to deal with probably more in the past 6 months than I have in the past 15 years. The easy answer is, our next song runs off the chart and we've got some kind of label interest, and we could go play as many shows as we want to play and go tour and whatnot. And there is always going to be the 20-year-old part of me that can never let that dream go, at some level. The hard part nowadays, and I will give, if I give anybody credit, I'll give Gravel Switch more credit than anyone else. Those dudes do it harder every show, number of shows than any other band around here. But what really gets difficult nowadays is when you really start looking at numbers and logistics and what it takes to tour, especially if a label's not funding it. And it's probably a taller task than it's ever been. What I love to be able to play music, support all my bills and my family and whatnot. Yeah, for sure. Like that would be phenomenal, playing Louder Than Life and all these other shows and being asked. I think that's probably one of the biggest things is when you start getting asked to play shows versus not having to hunt the shows. Like that's a big deal. But the discussion we have as a band all the time, and I don't know if it's an age thing or just a life thing and responsibilities, is like, what's the money that it would take? Because I'll tell you right now, you can go on tour. I had an opportunity last year. I've probably been a little bit over a year ago now. It was tossed out to us like, hey, if you want to go on tour with Sevendust, you can do that. But you got to buy on. It's going to cost you $35,000. You're going to get to go play with them for a month, and that's it. You're paying to go hope that you sell enough merch to pay the bills and hopefully garner enough fans and everything else. And it's a tall order nowadays. So yeah, I mean, if we're just pitching to the moon here, ideally, right? Like we have a song run off and makes us a ton of money and we get picked up and someone pays the bills for us to go tour and get to make our own schedules, and that'd be phenomenal. That's best case scenario. Second best case scenario, I win the Powerball, I buy my own tour bus and we just do our own tours, right? That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome too. Legitimately, I think what it is how do we keep recording and putting the music out that we want to put out? How do we stay productive, not let things get dry? We're really trying to play the shows that make sense as opposed to playing every show that we can get a hold of. What are the shows that are going to bring people out? What are the lineups that are most rewarding for us? Getting to play with Saving Abel was a huge thing for me. Check the block of 22-year-old Adam dreaming of being a rock star, right? Like those kind of shows that have meaning, and just kind of doing it our way. Cause I think with where we're at, I think that's what's going to keep it enjoyable. And I think that's the biggest thing. How do you keep this from being a job? How do you keep this from being a drain? How do you keep the people that you love feeling like they can support you? Cause it's not necessarily draining from the rest of your life or draining from them. And how do you keep them involved in it? Like my twins are 13. They love rock music. So they have never not been supportive. And I've done some really cool stuff lately with my daughter getting on stage and singing and stuff like that. So how do we include the people that we care about and keeping the train going without running people over, I think. And maybe that's coming out in some of our music too. Maybe, you talk about the evolution and where the lyrics go and where our songs are aimed. And maybe some of that's bleeding into that at this point, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing.
That's absolutely a good response, man, because I could tell you, I love the response about what we could do to make this not feel like a job. And I tell you, that's what I do when I'm podcasting. I meet new bands. I meet bands that's been out there, maybe not personally until they come a little closer, and I'm definitely there. Just like Silent Theory, I had them a while back, and they were actually on their tour bus. And I had an interview with Bob, and now this month they're coming to Houston. So I messaged
nice.
Bob. I said, hey man, I'm going to be at the show, and so I got VIP tickets. I got VIP table, and my hotel room is across the road. So I will be I will be hanging out, talking with them guys, and that's the thing. When you're doing something you love and trying to keep it not being a job, I think about if I can reach one person, if I can share one new band, with people that has never heard of you, it gives me a feeling of, accomplishment, and it keeps me from thinking that this is a job. It's not a job for me, it's a hobby for me. And just like you said, man, and you have to keep that mindset, because you don't want to put too much work. You could you put just enough money. Well, you put the money that you need into it, but you got a set point, because once you get into a higher bracket, then it becomes a job. So um, I would not stop what you're doing, because I absolutely love your music, but that's my opinion. And everybody that I've let listen to y'all's guys' music, they absolutely love it. So I could tell you, you're on the right track from our perspective, you know, um, and that's how I
I
look at
appreciate
things,
that.
man.
That probably, I'd say feedback, as much as we enjoyed putting me, like the recording process for me is my, other than being on stage, probably my favorite part. Um, but the hard part sometimes is you put all that work into it and you dump something out, and then it's almost like a complete switch. It finally gets out to the masses. It gets out on social media. We have our loyal, you know, 20, 40 people that are always comment on our stuff and follow us around Kentucky and whatever. But, very quickly seems like it falls on deaf ears at times, because you don't know who's listening to it. You don't get to see, I see the streams at the end of the week, however many it was. I don't know how many of those was just my Alexa going nonstop, those kind of things. So hearing that feedback, no matter who it's from, some random person buys buys a sweatshirt in Australia, like that kind of stuff is like the coolest part when you start hearing about that. Or somebody that we did the Shallow Side show and somebody drove up from Texas. They're like, we're flying in from Texas just to see you guys. And I was like, what? Surely you're coming for Shallow Side, right? Like they're like, well, yeah, we know them, but we're coming up to see you guys because they're there. So that kind of stuff is, it probably keeps us going a lot more than anybody remembers to say or admit. That really is what feeds us back, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, I could tell you for sure that you know you reach Louisiana, because that's where I'm at, and I have some guys that are also listening in, California, Arizona, Colorado, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York right now. So, and then there's also a band that also follows me in England. I catch them watching the shows here. So I'm telling you, this is what I love to do, man. Is I love the spread music, and it's awesome to watch where it goes, you know, and where it takes you. So it's absolutely been a great thing for me. So, and
No, I appreciate it.
um,
One of the coolest things about Spotify, as much as they don't pay, is I can actually get on and see where streams come from, and it is pretty cool sometimes to see, like, well, who the hell was listening in Munich, Germany? All right, cool. At least somebody dug it. There's some dude out there, probably on an army base, if I had to guess, knowing our music, that jammed 10 or 15 times on lessons or something. So it is pretty wicked. It's pretty cool to see.
hell yeah. So, man, this has been an awesome conversation. And for the audience, I want you to remember, if you're in the area, May 9th at the Fox Den, Louisville, Kentucky, you can find Past Silent. So, from your background to the music to the journey you guys are on right now, it's clear there's a lot of passion behind Past Silent. Adam, for everyone watching and listening, go ahead and let them know where they can find your music, follow you, keep up with everything Pass Silent has going on.
So all of our social media is at Pass Silent, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Our website is passsilentmusic.com. And that you can find everything on there. We're a little older, so Facebook is our primary. TikTok should probably be my primary, but I have to make Jacob do that. He's the pretty face of the band. But you can find all of our stuff on there. We do have a YouTube channel as well. It's all on there. And we're, of course, anywhere you stream music. We're a DistroKid band. So Spotify, Pandora, we're on all of them. I think we're even on Snapchat, maybe. I could be wrong. But yeah, at Pass Silent on Facebook. I don't think there's anybody else out there when you pull us up that you'll confuse us with. So it's not a hard band name to find. And worst case, shoot us a message. I answer every single message that I can get on any of the platforms. We've got merch that we sell at shows. We've got merch that we sell online. I wish I could tell you we have a Texas show coming up. That'd be awesome. We are getting the one Pennsylvania listener that you got. We'll hopefully see in Gettysburg in July. And maybe we can spread out a little bit too. We're always down. We're always down to travel. The hard part is how far is it? And can we get back for work? Right. That's the that's the struggle at this point in the game. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate the hell out of you reaching out. I've made sure we followed you, and I know you've talked to Gravel Switch and a couple other bands I've already shouted out. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming out of Kentucky that nobody hears about. So find a show for sure. And if not, there's probably 3 rock bands around every single person that listens, no matter where you live. You could probably find 3 that are way better than you give them credit for. So find your way out to some local bar or show and, drop the $5 cover or whatever it is, because that's how they're going to eat the next day. So.
Well, Adam, I want to thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you. And to the audience, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you go check out Pass Silent. These guys are putting out some powerful music. This is BSing with Y Eagle Y, and we'll catch you on the next one.